Alright, so I got a solid ride or two on the portals. I'm going to do a little review. Super well made. The welds and everything are very pretty. The engineering is, it's good. Nice drain plugs. There's the fill. There's the drain. I did lop these bolts off on the bottom. They used to stick out like that. Didn't want that grabbing any stumps. With the wheels I'm using, which are 16 by 6 car wheels, you can see that the entire portal fits inside the wheel. So you don't actually see it, which is what I wanted. I hate when you see this portal hanging out of the wheel. If you have 4 inches of portal hanging out of your wheel, you might as well not have portals because that's just going to drag on the ground. You're going to get stuck even more. Also, it's not too wide. It still fits in the bed of a standard Chevy. So I'm really happy with the portals. If I had designed them myself and I had their resources, I think I could have made them thinner. And thinner is good, right, because it's put less stress on your ball joints. The ball joints are under a tremendous amount of stress with these portals. And I think if I do have any failures, that's what it'll be. So I'm keeping a set of ball joints in the glove box. But yeah, I mean, really well made. The fact that they come with all the different studs for every different bike is just very, very nice. The way the rotors are drilled, you have 4 different lug patterns you can do: 4x110, 4x156, 4x137, and 4x115. So I've got it set up for my Honda wheels right now because it's most of the wheels I have, but I can change it pretty easily. The installation was time consuming because of the bushings and having to bang in all the studs, but really not bad. The instructions very generic, kind of pointless, but they worked. So after the first ride, I just pulled out the top plug, put in a zip tie, and checked all my fluids. Every single fluid is perfectly clean and free of contamination, and they were underwater for a while, so they definitely are 100% waterproof. We'll see how long these seals last. Got the 2 seals, but so far so good. Even with no vent lines, which I was a little bit concerned about, they are waterproof. I think like a lower unit on a boat doesn't have vent lines, so kind of the same principle. As far as gear oil goes, I'm doing with the box set and running 80-90 weight Lucas gear oil. It's around here somewhere. It's a really good gear oil, not too crazy expensive, but they do recommend it for lower units and stuff, so I'm running this stuff. It took 2 of these to fill up all 4 boxes, so each one takes about half a quart of fluid. Pretty reasonable. I kind of wish the fill plug was higher. I'd like to put more oil in there, but they designed it that way for a reason. So the back is super stout because it bolts across here. So you add some torsion to the portal, to all your bushings and stuff. But the fact that it's got this long bolt from here to here going all the way through it, and this swing arm is so wide apart and beefy, I don't see the back having any problem with increased bushing wear. I mean, it'll be increased, but I don't think it's going to be drastic. I don't think I'll have any issues really. The back is, I feel really good about it. The front, yeah, the ball joints are getting tortured, but I can always upgrade those or just change them a lot, whatever. Brakes were pretty easy to do. I was able to reuse this brake line. There was enough slack in it, but the other 3 I did change. They give you some extra brake line, but I found it was pretty easy to just flip it up and do a loop like that to deal with the excess. Then if I ever do a 5 or 6 inch lift, see the loop. And the way I've got it all looped, it lets the suspension travel freely and it's not going to get pinched. See the loop? It's not that pretty. Eventually I'll probably tuck those loops up in there farther so I don't have to look at them. But I did trim a little bit right here. You can't even tell, but it was rubbing slightly, that suspension flex, when I was turning. The back doesn't rub at all, which is pretty good because these measure 33.5 inches tall on these wheels. I was thinking about doing a 3-inch lift, and I actually had it on order, but I canceled it. I'm just going to go with the Race Tech springs instead. I don't want to risk busting CV joints, and it's got plenty of clearance already, so I don't think that's necessary. I'll show you what the clearance looks like. So we're right at 19.5 in the front. You can read that. Okay, let's say 19 2/3 in the front, which is much better than the stock 10, 11 inches it had. And the rear, right under the hitch, which is the lowest point, you're right at 18. It's not a ton of ground clearance compared to my Honda, which is at 20 inches on these tires with my 3-inch lift. But you got to imagine you got a much heavier diff. It's a lot taller and beefier frame. But it's really plenty for a side-by-side because these tires have so much traction. it can slide the arms pretty easily. One thing that's interesting to note that I kind of want to explain to you guys is when you put wheel spacers or do anything that makes the wheel stick out farther, you increase the offset, you essentially make your suspension softer. So let me explain what I mean by that. So if you think about like a torque wrench, right? The longer the torque wrench, the easier it is to loosen the bolt. So the shock has a lever arm from here to here. Unless you change the lift, that doesn't change, right? So stock, the center of the wheel sat about here, which means the shock had this much leverage against the wheel it was working against, right? Well, when you move the wheel all the way out here, you doubled the distance from the shock the wheel is. So if you think of a shock as a bolt, you think this is the shock's the bolt, and you're trying to break it loose, you went from having a lever arm that was 6 inches long to having one that was 10 inches long. So these portals do make your suspension softer. And you can see that the small spring rate is all but completely compressed. So I'm going to do the Race Tech springs, the heavies, and that'll give me an extra, probably I'm calculating 2 inches of ground clearance, at least 1.5, judging by their spring rate data, without giving me any more down travel. And for the most part, down travel is what breaks axles. So yeah, that'll get me a little higher. It'll make it not squat so bad. When you hit the gas in this thing right now, it really squats because it's so wide. But definitely happy with it, and I think Super ATV did a great job with the kit, packaging it and everything. My only complaint is I wish they'd have made it about an inch narrower. But when I do the Race Tech springs and the arms, drop down, that'll bring the wheels in. So I'm hoping it'll be about an inch narrower with those springs. And if I really wanted it narrower, I could go to the skinny BKTs, the 8x18s. They are lighter. They're the same height, but they're real skinny. But I think with the weight of a side-by-side, the wides are going to be required. But yeah, really, really happy with it. Very good machining, very good welds. Everything lined up. Nothing really fought me whatsoever. Very good kit, Super ATV. Very impressed with it. I was debating between the side-by-side gear, Super ATV. I went with Super ATV because it has all the different lug patterns. They come with all the brake lines. And their stuff's just really pretty. I mean, it seems to be like, mass-produced perfection. It's very, very nice kit.